Russell Brand, let's take somebody who has died pretty sadly of late, Philip Seymour Hoffman. Would his life have been any different if drugs had been decriminalised?
Yes, I think possibly his life would have been. I think that suffering from a disease that is illegal stigmatises it inherently. It's a shameful condition. There's an element of blame involved. It's something that's done in isolation, something that's condemned from the get-go. So I think Philip Seymour Hoffman's case, to use his sad death as a glib example, would have been different if we were dealing with something that was acknowledged as a disease, not as a crime.
Why do you think society does retain a ban on these substances and therefore criminalise them?
I think there's many reasons. I think some of it is just confusion, some of it is tradition, and some of it is ignorance. Politicians, when they're in opposition, often speak about drug reform. David Cameron himself, when he was a backbencher, said it was time to reform drug laws. But I think that when people are in power, my personal belief, John, is that people that suffer from drug addiction are often people without a political voice, people that don't vote, people that aren't considered relevant. So it's easier to vilify and condemn them and posture and act tough around drugs than it is to deal with the problem. I'm talking about sort of the drug laws in this country. Globally, I'm sure there are complex economic reasons why drugs remain illegal. I can't imagine
But don't you think one of the reasons why politicians and why society tends to keep drugs illegal is one of fear that kids, that young people will turn on perhaps needlessly? I mean, if they were never exposed to them, they might not ever have used them.
I think there is some legitimate fear around drugs. Drugs, I'm not a big, woohoo, let's take drugs type person. Drugs can be incredibly dangerous and negative. What I'm saying is making them illegal isn't working. It doesn't work. It doesn't prevent people from using drugs. I'm talking about...
It didn't prevent you?
No, it made absolutely no difference. I think no difference at all. I think
Except presumably you lived in fear of, at some point, possibly running up against the law.
It complicated the situation and it made it more difficult to approach the situation for what it is legitimately, a disease which requires therapy and compassion, not to be pushed underground and controlled by illegal economies. So, yeah, John, in my particular case, what would have helped is regulation and therapy. I'm not talking about let's have a free-for-all, some crazy whacked-out world where everyone's on drugs. I'm saying that drugs should be pharmaceutical quality, they should be controlled and prescribed and not part of a huge sort of a criminal...
OK, so to that end, you have a campaign which focuses on what?
Caroline Lucas, the MP, the Green Party MP, has proposed that there's a full debate and investigation into UK drug policy. Along with Avaz, the online campaigning website, we've got over 100,000 signatures. That's what's required for it to be debated in Parliament. The debate is already going to happen. But what I want to make sure we present, John,
you want people to sign this thing?
They can sign it if they want to, but we've already got the 100,000 signatures, so it's going to be debated.
But hang on a minute, you're asking them then, a whole lot of politicians who you say young people shouldn't vote for, to determine what should happen to drug policy.
Well, this could end up being yet another example of why politics isn't representative, because we already know now that there's a mandate. We already know there's a consensus. We know that politicians know that drug laws aren't working. We know that the people of this country want reform around drug laws, and yet it hasn't changed.
Well, do we? Has it really been tested?
Yeah, I think so, mate. There's been pretty thorough reports around it. 66% of Conservative voters, 69% of Labour voters, 61% of Daily Mail readers want drug laws changed. So there's a huge mandate. And this survey, mate, we got 100,000 signatures in 24 hours. I came on here to promote
but you're asking people to
we don't even need to promote it anymore. It happened so quickly. I don't even need to be here.
No, but you're asking people to sign up to a petition that then MPs that you do not want them to vote for are going to have to debate.
Yes, that's right.
Well, how does that work?
Because I'm not interested in the power of politicians. I'm interested in the power of people. I'm interested in representing people. This does represent the views of people. 100,000 people in no time at all have signed this petition.
But Russell, there's a confusion here.
There's not confusion,
John. You said don't vote to young people. You said Russell Brand, have never voted.
I never will be. Yeah, John, I maintain this.
But therefore you're asking people, people want people to vote for.
Yes, that's right.
To determine a change in the drug law. law.
No, John, that's not what's happening. What I'm doing is I'm demonstrating consensus. I'm further demonstrating that these politicians are completely out of touch. They are irrelevant, but until the revolution, this is the system that we will be using.
But in effect, you are actually doing the government's work for them, because the very people you're saying don't vote, young people, that's who you were talking to specifically,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Okay.
I was talking to all people, actually.
No, those are the people. Those are the people who are suffering the cuts. They're the people, for example, whose educational maintenance grant, which made all the difference to going to school for 16-year-olds, they're cutting that.
John,
okay, now if these young people were voting...
John, absolutely not. I refuse to be drawn on this subject. You know better than anybody that parliamentary democracy does not represent people. What they offer is piecemeal change. I'm saying people deserve more. If democracy was truly representative, then the 1 million people march against the Iraq war would have meant there wasn't an illegal war in Iraq. I think there was an illegal war in Iraq. So don't tell me that politics works. I'm saying let's form consensus. Let's bring people together.
I'm not telling you anything. I'm not telling you anything. I'm trying to strip down what telling people...
on the television.
No, I'm trying to
tell me before we're on.
I'm trying to strip down what you are trying to tell people. On the one hand, you're saying, don't vote.
Yes.
And on the other hand, you're saying, sign up to this petition so those people for whom you will not vote will make a decision.
Well, John, this is going to be a process.
That doesn't make any sense.
Please, John, what is important? What doesn't make sense?
Do you regret telling people not to vote?
Stop. Look, listen, let me talk. What doesn't make sense are the current laws around drugs in this country, which means people are unnecessarily dying and a disease is being stigmatised. That doesn't make sense.
So tell young people, surely, elect somebody who will change these laws. Ask them, before you put your tick there, say, will you resist these drug laws?
Do you see what you're doing there, John? You're entering into their paradigm. What I say is create new paradigm, then present it. Don't say, oh, hopefully someone will turn up that we can vote for. That's not what I'm saying. Let's work on what we want. What we want is we want drug reform.
Right. Who's your cohort? Who's your cohort in this drive? Caroline Lucas, MP.
No, Caroline happens to be a lovely lady.
And she's key to your campaign as well.
John, hear me out, old bean. Who I'm interested in are the hundreds of thousands of ordinary people that are signing this petition. That's who I represent. That's who I'm interested in.
That petition is organised by you and Caroline Lucas. Caroline Lucas is an MP. She's a Green MP.
What are you saying? Parliamentary democracy works?
No, I'm not. I'm
sorry, everyone. Everything's fine. There is no poverty. There is no climate change. Those floods aren't real. There is no flood. We're fine. Live in denial. I'm saying.
I want to ask you another question.
Yeah.
And the question is, given that she supports precisely what you want done, would you, if you had the opportunity, vote for Caroline Lucas?
Of course not. Because by if voting for Caroline Lucas changed the world would be different. Because voting for Caroline Lucas is already an option. I'm saying we need to change things radically and dramatically to address economic inequality and to address the ecological meltdown that we're now facing, fortunately, in the home counties. So people are interested in it now.
See this psychedelic place behind me?
I wish it was psychedelic, John, because I think some ayahuasca might elevate their consciousness.
Russell Brand, give me a picture of what you would like to see. Just tell me
a truly representative democracy
what would that look like?
It would look a lot like that, John. It would be a lovely psychedelic building. John, please, again,
No, but what do you want to see? John, how would decisions be made?
Please let me ask you. Is there a distinction between pointing out that they're in one... I'm here to talk about the issue around drugs. In countries like Portugal and Switzerland, where they have reformed their drug laws, people are not dying of this disease in such huge numbers. Crime is dropping. HIV infection is dropping. That's important. That's more important than you, an entertainer, getting me, another entertainer, to cook up a wacky version of politics so you can make me look a bit daft because I'm passionate and I care.
No, but it seems to me if you want to demolish one thing...
I'm talking about...
But if you want to demolish one thing, surely you have to give a vision of what it is you'd actually like to see in its place.
Yes, and this will be a process. It will be a process, and it won't just come from me. I'm talking about a different system that isn't about just David Cameron or me or anyone turning up on the telly, shouting their mouth off, but it's truly representative of people, that engages people and listens to people.
It's conducted online or what?
Well, John, I appreciate in a way that you're pushing me, but what I'm saying is that I'm not the technical genius that's going to invent a truly democratic electronic voting system, a nation of referenda, a globe of referenda where we all live as equal citizens, where we address inequality. First of all, the first stage, John, is to address we have a problem. Then we need to, yes, you're quite right, people, and if people want me to be involved in devising a solution, I'll be happy to be a part of that.
That would be called entering politics.
But fair enough, if that's what's required. But don't because in a way, mate, you're helping hold together the system, because as soon as someone goes, oh, I don't like things the way they are, I go, well, immediately come up with an alternative, or that's because then what do? How do we advance debate? We're at the point in our narrative that we're at is addressing there's a problem. The next point in the narrative will be, here are some potential solutions. And this one issue, an issue that I do happen to know about, is a way that we can make a small advance. And how? Through referenda, through the people, through representing people. People know already that drug laws aren't working.
Okay.
People see that in Switzerland and Portugal, less people are dying. So let's implement these laws in this country now, a country that prides itself on being progressive, not clinging to old traditions and allowing people to die as a result of that gesture.
Let's try then applying it to something which many people are thinking about right now.
Why are we trying to do that?
No, let's try for a minute, because there are very serious floods in this country.
Sure.
And a lot of people think it's about climate change. But a lot of politicians don't think it's about climate change.
That's
don't
right.
want to think it's about climate change. So the question is, do you believe in climate change? Do you think that's what's happening?
I think the climate's changed, and I think there's a lot of evidence from scientists, and I think there's a lot of work and effort going into suppressing that information so that energy companies can continue to operate the way they are.
Do you think there's human involvement?
In what sense?
In changing the climate?
Yes, I do actually. Yeah. But I mean, again, I'm not an expert on climate change, but Naomi Klein is, and she thinks it, and she believes in it, and that's enough for me. And she's saying that nothing's going to happen around climate change and the way that we use energy on our planet unless people protest and unless people en masse get involved. You in a way asking me to devise all the solutions.
In an odd sort of way, she's coming up with a different solution to the one that you're coming up with drugs. Drugs, you're talking about a petition to try and raise awareness and try and get a commitment. She's talking about actual direct action on the streets.
And I think the direct action on the streets is probably the best way to get things changed in every area. However, because it seemed apposite.
But you actually used the example of the Iraq War. It had no effect at all.
Right, yeah, that's true, John. So obviously these protests need to become more vehement, more active, more direct. They need to change, they need to evolve. But the options aren't let's do something or let's do nothing.
In your journey from drug addiction, have you concluded in the end that you're a revolutionary? No, it's a fair question. Do you want a revolution?
You know I do. You know I do. That's the reason that I'm here. First of all, I want a revolution in the way that we regard addiction as a disease, the way we legislate it, the way we treat drug addicts. But further than that, I want to address global inequality around economics, and we need to find some suitable ecological solutions around energy.
Have you found any downside from urging people not to vote?
Well, yeah, because people keep repackaging it as you're telling people to be apathetic. I'm not telling them to be apathetic. I'm telling them to direct their energy in a focused manner, in a way that will truly make a difference. Voting does not make a difference. You are not represented. When this petition gets debated in Parliament, they'll change as little as possible to placate people. I'm saying we need a truly representative democratic system. It's a very, very big issue.
Your revolution, particularly if you were trying to bring about this change, you would draw the line at violence.
Yeah, I mean, what's the point? Then you've lost anyway. Yeah, you've got to. You can't. Yeah, I certainly will. Yeah.
Are you optimistic?
Yeah, I'm 100% entirely optimistic. I'm 100% entirely optimistic. But the problem is the sort of institutions like this, and you, I happen to know, are a proper lefty bloke or a pinko, whatever the hell that means.
Heaven preserve us. No, none of those.
I know you want to change the world. I know you agree with me. I know you agree with me on the issue of drugs. I know you do. But then for some reason, you've got to pretend to have a different opinion while you're on the news. Hello, I'm on the news now. I've got to pretend to be a different sort of person.
No. My job here is simply to probe what you think so that people get a real sense of what it is you're saying. No, so that people get a real sense of what you think.
Yeah, I know that. Fair enough. I wish I wasn't so emotionally volatile. But the fact is, John, that this is an issue that's affected me my entire life. It affects a lot of people that I love. I've seen people I love die from this disease. Now we have a chance to at least demonstrate that this isn't how people feel about this issue anymore. People don't want drugs to be illegal. People don't want the heads of their politicians buried in the sand. And if they do, as some sort of modern desert torture method. But what people want is change and openness around this issue. And through Caroline Lucas's petition, there is an opportunity to address it. Now, there may be some inconsistencies because I'm a man who doesn't believe in parliamentary democracy, that thinks it's a charade. But what I want is change around this issue, and I'm prepared to use the materials in front of me. Those materials will alter as time goes on, and more radical change will occur.
Russell Brand, thank you for talking to us.
See you after the break, John.